G'day crew, Ross here in the workshop, and today I'm asking the question, can you make soap without lye? Now I'm not going to lie to you, the answer is no. However, there is a workaround. But before we get to the workaround, let's quickly go through how you make soap. Now what we're going to do is take an oil or fat, so the oil is a vegetable oil or an animal fat or a combination of them. Now, if you're a vegetarian vegan, you're not going to want to touch the animal product, but there are so many different oils you can use. Even if you want to use the tallow, I still recommend putting some oils in because they add extra things, such as some oils add better lather, some will stabilize it, some will give you more bubbles, etc. So we take these, we warm them up together. Then we take an alkaline solution, which is highly corrosive, we add them together, and what the alkaline does, it splits the oils apart. It splits apart those triglyceride molecules through a process called saponification. Didn't make that up, that's a real word. And you also get a byproduct called glycerin. And glycerin is a humectant, which means it forms a little barrier on the skin and keeps your skin moist. Okay, that's normal soap making. Now normally, or traditionally, we would use a bucket of hardwood ash, add water, let it sit for a couple of days, strain it, and there's your alkaline solution. These days we use sodium hydroxide, good old caustic soda from the supermarket or the hardware store. It's a lot more consistent and we can get our ratios right between the alkaline and the oil. The problem is, of course, is that you're using lye, which is caustic, and if you get it on your skin, it's like putting acid on your skin, especially don't want to get it in your eyes or on your face. And there's some things you can do, use gloves, use eye protection, etc. But if you're concerned or you're doing something with kids, you want to be creative with kids and you think, well, the average kid shouldn't be using caustic soda, then what you can do is get melt and pour soap. Now, it's pre-made. Let's open this container up and we can see here we've just got little bubbles of a translucent product. That is soap-ish. And what we can do is we can still be creative, but we're not actually making it from scratch. Now, there's some disadvantages and some advantages of using the soap. A couple of the advantages. You need virtually no equipment. All you're going to do is put this into a container. There we go. That'll do. And we can either microwave that, probably 30 seconds at a time, or put it into a double boiler, or some people have special machines that melt it down. You won't, most likely, so you can microwave it a bit at a time. It'll become a liquid and you can come back into your working space and you can add, if you want, botanicals, which includes things like dried herbs, although they can bleed, so be a bit careful with those. You can add in essential oils to give it a nice aroma, and you can add in coloured mica to give it a colour. You can add all of those and you can pour it into a mould. Now, if you're starting off, you don't need to go and buy a silicone mould. In fact, I've done a video on moulds you can go and watch. Here's some examples. Yogurt container. Chicken and rice dinner. I've actually made a soap in that. Fairly big soap, but it does work. Here's, in fact, some soap, not melt and pour, but normal soap that I've just put into some ice cube containers. There we go. Nice little soap that you can make. And what you can then do is you can put that inside a bigger mould, and so you end up with a shape inside a shape. So there's various things you can do. You don't need to go buy moulds. Having said that, $6 online. Pretty easy. So you're not looking at a lot of equipment. You don't need a stick blender, you don't need scales, you don't need a thermometer, any of that. You just put it in a container, melt it and pour it. What else have we got? Well, there's no lye to deal with, and that means there's a few of the things that can happen to us as soap makers are not going to happen. Here's some examples. First one, because glycerin's melted, if it gets a bit too cold, we can just remelt it again. This one here was normal soap and it was just getting too cold and starting to set very quickly. I jammed it into a mould as quick as I could, but as you can see, it had already started to set up, so I've got a big ugly crack through it. That won't happen. Here's another thing, the dreaded soda ash. Now this is the oxidization of leftover lye on the surface of your soap. That's often caused by temperature. You can sometimes get around it by spraying isopropyl alcohol on top of your soap to form a barrier with the air. Doesn't always work. And the other thing that you can't really see is this also has the white dots of death. There are little white dots through this that I can see from this angle, and what they are is they're bits of fat that started to congeal before the saponification process. So you have this bar of soap with these little white dots through it. And what they are is just pure fat or oil, and they can go rancid. So again, not good, and they don't look good. You're not going to get them with melt and pour. Also, normal soap has to cure. So a tallow soap, minimum 3 months. An oil-based soap, minimum 6 months, because if you don't do that, they're not going to be hard. This is 5 months, nice and hard and usable. So with glycerin soap, you can use it almost immediately. So it's safe, it's easy, it's quick, very little equipment required. Let's look at the disadvantages. So a couple of things. One, it's reasonably expensive. So this is 250 grams or 1/4 kilogram, cost me about $6.50 plus postage. A kilogram is going to cost you around $25 to $30. If you do that with oil and make it yourself, you're looking at probably $10. In fact, I have a video on how to make soap for under $10. I think I made about 750 or 800 grams. So it's reasonably expensive. It's got a lot of glycerin in it, so it is likely to sweat in humid conditions. Be aware of that. It's going to be a softer soap. No curing time, sure, but it's just softer to start with, so you'll use it quite quickly. The main thing, however, is you have no control over what's in it, so you need to do your homework. It can have synthetic chemicals, synthetic detergents, stabilizers, etc. Now, I'm of the view that anything I eat or drink or put on my skin is going to end up in my body and is going to impact on my health. So, one of the reasons I make soap is because I can fully control the process. With this, you can't do that so much. But here's the thing. If you've never made soap before, it's probably not a bad place to start. You can heat it up, pour it into a mould and see what it looks like. If you don't like it, you can reheat it. You can try again. You can try different moulds and you can use the same base to see what it looks like. You can add your botanicals, you can add your essential oils, you can add your colour and you can make your soap. And really you can just build up your base little bit by little bit. And then when you're ready and you're comfortable, you can maybe move on to making normal soap. So it's really, really easy to use. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to microwave this. I'm going to come back and I'm going to see what it looks like. Now what I've done is I've just put in a little container here. I put most of the soap in, so I've put in probably 200 grams of that 250. I gave it 30 seconds in an 1100 watt microwave. I gave it another 30 seconds and it's actually probably a little bit overdone. It's quite warm, doesn't matter, but a minute, no more than a minute. So very simple. Now, what am I going to do? Really simple, watch. What that's going to do is make a completely clear bar of soap, just completely clear. Now I've got some left over. What am I going to do with that? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some essential oil, just to give it a nice aroma. There we go. Maybe 2 of those. Yep. 2 full ones. There we go, I've got some jasmine. Yep, that's a nice smelling oil. In fact, I'll give it a little bit more. You've got to be a bit careful adding too much oil because you can split it. Now, I'm not going to add any botanicals in this. You could add all sorts of things. You can add sand if you want an abrasive soap. You can add oats for the same reason. You could add dried oregano or dried jasmine or whatever you want to put in there. The problem with that is that they can bleed and then you end up with an ugly looking thing, and I've had that happen to me. Now, what am I going to do there? I'm going to give it a colour. Shall we give it a colour? Orange or blue? Let's make blue. I'm going to put some mica in. It takes a fair amount of mica to colour your soap. We'll end up with a blue, a nice blue, fairly translucent soap with hopefully a nice smell that'll stick around. That seems to be quite a nice colour. I think that's blue enough. There we are. There we go. We've made our 2 bars of soap. Again, a little bit of isopropyl alcohol should take care of those air bubbles on top. And that is your glycerin soap. Now, as soon as that has dried or cooled down, it'll solidify and it's usable. And we will know in a couple of hours when we come back how that's going to turn out. The great thing about these moulds is turning soap out of them is actually really, really easy. All right, we're going to leave that for a while and come back in a little while. All right, now it's a few hours later. I've been out and about doing things and we come back and I have 2 hard blocks of soap. And the good thing about these silicone molds is you can turn them out very easily. There we go, look at that. Oh, I don't mind that. And this one. Okay, so let's take a close look. What I've got here is, first of all, I've got a clear soap. Now you can't get clear soap when you're making it with sodium chloride and fat. Okay, so it's always going to be white or whatever colour you put in it. So the fact that you get a clear soap is actually quite cool. And you can put botanicals in there. You can even put a pressed flower in the middle of that. And that's actually quite neat. Very, very cool. The second one is similar, but this one's got colour to it. And they both have a nice flavour or aroma to them. Very, very nice. Now, there's a little bit sweaty, and that's what you're going to find with glycerin soap. But generally, nice and crisp lines. Very, very quick to make. And quite frankly, not a bad little outcome whatsoever. So, soap without lye, yes, it's melt and pour. You can buy it, melt it, add in your extra bits and pieces, pour it into a mould, and a couple of hours later you have usable soap. Although I won't be using this for at least a month, I will let it cure a bit more, so most of the moisture will leave the soap. Guys, hopefully you found that useful. I do appreciate a like, even a subscribe if you want to have more DIY content. That's always good. If not, then happy journeys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, stay clean. See ya.